How's it going, Drew Blazik? I'm going to do a quick video on our take-home exam. So if you have any questions, I'm going to show you how to solve it. I will not have the correct answer in there. I'm not going to solve it all the way, but I will show you how. So let's go to, I want you to pop open an Excel sheet and our questions. Question one, just go through this really quick. We've got two companies. There's no retained earnings. All the money is going straight to the dividends, to the shareholders. We got a company that has double taxation, and then we have a company that's single tax. So in both examples, you got the corporate tax, which is 34%. And then we have the personal tax, which is 34%. So you got to see what the question's asking. We're taxed at 34%. That's what we're losing. However, if you want to know how much we are keeping, that would be one minus the tax. We are keeping 66% of it. That's our operating, how much we're keeping, our income, our profits afterwards. So the answer to the question is, well, it's a 34% tax rate, and then it's a 60% what we're keeping. If you want to know the double taxation, how much are they uh, keeping? Well, you could do 1 minus 0.34, and then you could do times 1 minus 0.34, and then that's going to be 43.5. That's what they're keeping, right? Because we're taxed twice, 34%. So what the question's asking, what is the difference between a company that's taxed twice, and what is the difference of what they're keeping if they're only taxed once? All right, next question is we want to know what was the firm's free cash flow. So what we want to do is we want to take our sales. I'm not gonna do the numbers here. You can do it. Sales are 182,500, and then we want to know what is the operating costs. What is that? That is our 150,500. So we have 182 here, 155. And then what we want to do is we want to subtract out depreciation for tax purposes, okay? So once we do that, that becomes our EBIT, our earnings before interest and taxes. That's our EBIT. And then what we want to do is we want to multiply that times 1 minus the tax rate. Because what we're trying to find out is what our free cash flow. What is free cash flow? Well, that is the amount of money we actually have. So we get sales, subtract out depreciation, subtract out operating costs, and we're going to multiply that times 1 minus taxes. And that gives us a certain value that you got, okay? Now we want to know, well, how much money do we actually have? What do we depreciate? We depreciated capital expenditures. Well, that actually costs something. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to add I'm going to add back in whatever that value is, and I'm going to add back in depreciation. I'm going to add that back in because it was never a cost. That's for tax purposes. Depreciation, I'm going to subtract out because we had a capital expenditure. I'm going to subtract that out. Where's capital expenditure? That is the firm was required to spend 15,000 to buy new fixed assets. We have to subtract that out. That new fixed assets was their depreciation. Well, it was only for tax purposes. We added back in the depreciation. Now I'm going to subtract out the capital expenditures. Next, what I want to do is I want to subtract or add, in this case, subtract the change of net working. So, I don't want to do that. So subtract the change of net operating working capital. And what is that amount? That is oh, and it's right in front of my face. That's the 6,850. So we want to subtract that. What does that mean? It increased by that amount. That means we had to use cash to buy that. So if you guys remember from chapter, I believe 3 or 4, that we did that whole balance sheet, we want to know the change of net operating working capital. That's if accounts payable changed, that's a positive. We got more cash. That's credit. If accounts receivable change, that's credit on. We give credit to the customer. That increases less cash. Inventories, all that stuff. So you want to subtract that out, and that is going to be the answer of our free cash flow. Okay. Sorry it took so long that. You got to go through these questions quick. This question is, I meant to say this earlier. I sent an email out. You do not have to do this one. But I will give a bonus question on the exam if you could solve the marginal tax rate. This is average. You have to do a bunch of calculations, find the average. The marginal tax rate is whatever money you made, let's say you made $100,000, the last dollar earned, you look at it, what bracket does that fall under 100,000? Well, it falls here. Your marginal is your last dollar at what rate? If I only made 5,000 this year, well, it falls under here. That would be my rate. So that's marginal. Bonus question, extra credit. Question 4, rail construction recently reported 30 million of sales operating costs. So again, you're doing the same thing we did here. We're going to take sales and then we want to subtract out operating costs. Subtract that out. Subtract out depreciation. It has bonds outstanding. What is it asking for? It's asking what is the operating income? That is EBIT. So what do you do with that? You subtract out, you take the sales, subtract out the operating costs, subtract out depreciation. That's EBIT. Don't remember that. Get the Excel sheet that has EBIT on the income statement, and you can see what you have to subtract out. Everything else in this question, you don't have to know. The balance sheet. What is the firm's current ratio? So I'm not going to spend time on this. Look at the ratios. Current ratios real quick. It's just current assets divided by current liabilities added up. That's the ratio. So these next questions pertain to the same sheet. On the in-class exam, it will automatically pop up. Next question. What is the firm's return on equity? Again, go look at the ratio and you're just going to find out, either you need net income, you're going to need sales, and then you want to know equity. You want to know where those are found. What is given? It's given is the income statement and the balance sheet. Those are the two things that are given to answer the question. So again, profit margin. We don't have to go over that. I will go over this part here. What is the firm? So we're using the same balance sheet, same income statement. What is the firm's invested capital? So we want to do with that one is you want to take EBIT and I'm going to multiply that times 1 minus the tax rate. Okay. And you want to divide that by what is invested capital. Okay. And this is one of those ratios in one of those questions, I think chapter 4, that there's tons of ratios. It's one of those that you have to calculate. Okay, so what you want to do is, sorry, I was looking at an email. You want to take your EBIT, multiply it times 1 minus tax rate, and then what you want to divide that by is invested capital. And what is invested capital? Well, invested capital is equal to debt plus equity. What is debt? Well, that is equal to short-term debt plus, and then long-term debt That's total debt. So you're going to look at bonds and you're going to look at notes payable, that's short-term debt. And then you want to add in common equity. And then that will give you the return on invested capital. So your capital, part of it's debt, part of it you own. Um, all right, let me give you a couple tips about this one. Question 9. You need the DuPont equation here. Okay. Um, in the DuPont equation, you have to know a few things. So if you want to look it up, it's the end of, I believe, chapter 4. The DuPont equation, there's a couple ways to calculate the return on equity. Now they're asking this way. You want to know the profit margin. And what is that? That's going to be net income divided by sales, right? Net income divided by sales. And you want to multiply that ratio times the total asset turnover. What is that? That's going to be sales divided by assets. Okay, sales divided by assets. That's the turnover asset turnover, total asset turnover. So you want to look that up in chapter 4. And then you're going to multiply that times the equity multiplier. What is that? That's going to be our assets divided by equity. So every dollar of equity, how much assets does it produce? That's what's asked for the multiplier. All those give us something, so you want to figure those out. Okay. Now, in the question, not everything is given. We have sales, we have assets of 250,000. We don't know equity. Okay. What they do give you, the firm's total debt to total capital is 9%. So what you could do is you take the 9%, multiply that times the assets, and then you could figure out if that percent is debt, the remaining amount must be equity. Once you have equity, you could plug those into those ratios and you could solve the question. Question 10, let's spend some time with this one. This one's a little more difficult. After graduation, you plan to work for Dynamo Corporation for 12 years. So right away, what I'm going to do is do 12 years. So I'm going to highlight 3. That's a pattern. I'm going to highlight down and we'll get 2 more. We got 12 years. I'm going to make sure I do times 0. That's today. Now what we're going to do is plug in how much money we're getting. For the first 6 years, starting next year, so starting in year 1, it is 7,600. So I'm going to go all the way down. And then starting in year 7 for 6 years, you're going to save 13,000. In addition, your grandfather just gave you 35,000 today. I'm going to put that at time 0. Okay, now we have a 9% interest rate. So I'm going to write that up here, 9%. So it's always easy to type this up. You want to get the ratio or the cash flow for each year. Compounding annual, make it easier. This is like the question that I found the present value, but this is asking something different. How much will you have when you start your business in the 12th year? How much money would you have if you're saving all this? So that's what it's asking in that year. So in this question, we're trying to find the future value. 35,000 compounded for 12 years. How much is that? 7,600 for 11 years. So this is what I'm going to do. It's a little tricky. Now, somebody in class had a good idea. You can call these payments and you can find the future value. I'm going to do it this way. We know the years. I'm going to start this cell and I'm going to go the other way. That means we're compounding that 35,000 in 12 years, the next 11, the next 10, right? Because we're finding the future value, doing this for a reason. Now, if we're trying to find the present value, just like we did in class, all I had to do is the net present value equation. So now what I'm going to do is, what is the future value? What is the future value is the present value times 1 plus the interest rate. I'm going to put a function F4 there because I want to freeze it and I want it to move when I drag it down. And then I'm going to close it up and I want to know how many years this is compounding. 35,000 times 1.09 for 12 years. That's the future value right there. At 35,000 is 98,443 in 12 years. Well, I want to find out. I'm going to highlight all those, go down, hit Control D. I want to find out what is 7,611 years. So I'm going to select that. Yep, done correctly. 7,600 times 1.09 to the 10th power. What that's going to be worth in 10 years from now. What's the next one to be? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1. And the 13,000 that they give you in year 12 is worth 13,000. There's no compounding. So here's all the future values. All I have to do is all equals. I'm going to sum those up. I just gave you the answer. Hey, you owe me 292,000. If I ask for the present value of those, of all these, I'll show you real quick how to do that. I would do, well, this is already in the present, 35,000. I'm going the other way. And I'm going to plus, and I'm going to do an easy one. The net present value equation. There's no such thing as a net future value equation, unfortunately. So if I want to find the present value of all those future cash flows, I'm going to hit the rate, and then I'm going to highlight all the future. So that would be not that. That would be the present value of all future cash flows because we're discounting future, or I could have just divided each one by that. Okay. On to the next. Bob has 2,300 invested in a bank that pays 4.1% annual. How long will it take for his funds to double? I'm going to give you this. He has 2,300. That's the present value, $2,300, right? The interest rate is 4.1%. And we want to know the future value. We want to know the future value of how much would this double? And so multiply it times 2. How long would it take $2,300 to become 4,600? I'm going to make this a negative, right? Look what we got. We got our function here. So I'm going to type in, I want to know NPER, how many years, make the present value negative because you're paying into that. How many years would it take at a 4.1%? A payment is 0. My Excel's acting up here. There we go. Wait, that's the rate. All right, there we go. Payment 0, present value right there. And that's asking, what about the future value? I have it as a negative. I got to multiply it times the negative again. Make it a positive because I multiplied 2 times that. And then this is the future value. That's going to tell you how many years it'll take for 2,300 today to be doubled. If I said triple, just multiply times 3. So what I'm going to do is I multiply it. I'm going to put a negative out there because you want that future value as a positive, and that's negative. Okay, question 12. Rocco Corporation sales were 700 million. This is sales. If sales grew at 6% each year per year, how large in millions will it be in 6 years? Okay. So there's a couple ways to do it. This is the present value, you could say. This is the interest rate. This is the NPER. So we want to know what the future value is. So I'm going to show you 2 ways. I could say the future value is equal to the interest rate divided by the total number of payments of 6 years. I'm sorry, divided by, I meant comma. So interest rate, comma, total number of payments, 6, comma. There's no payments. This is, we want to know what present value, how much if it grows at 6%. Hit 0, and then we want to know the present value. I should make it negative, plug that in, and that will give you the correct answer. Okay, so you want to make that negative if you go that route. Another way you could do it is, well, I have 1.06, that's the growth rate, And I want to know, well, what if I put it to the sixth power, right? So I want to know what that value is. That's the product. That means that's 1.06 times 1.06 times 1.06 times 1.06 times 1.06 times 1.06. So that's 1.41. So to find the answer, I compound each one. I can multiply that times this. In this case, you want that present value to be positive because it'd be a positive amount. So it's two ways of doing it. Suppose your credit card issue states change a 12.25 nominal annual rate, but you must make monthly payments. Okay, so this is a nominal or simple interest. That's 15.25%. And then what we want to know is periodic payments are 12, it's monthly. We want to know what is the effective rate or the EAR. That's what we want to know. A couple ways of doing it. Okay, if we know this, I could go this route. I did this at the beginning of class. I could take that, I could divide it by 12. Well, that's the interest payments per month. And then what I could do is I could take, oh, sorry, 1 plus the interest rate, right? Monthly interest rate, and I could compound it. I could say to the 12th power. So that's one way of doing it. And you can see subtract out 1. I see it's 16.36%. Or what I could do is if I need to find the compound rate, I can type in EFF. That's the effective, that's the EAR. I'm hit tab. It wants to know what's the nominal rate and how many times is it compounded. So you could do it that way as well. It gives you the same answer. And if you do that way, well, that's the compound one. I can go back to simple interest. That's called nominal. So nominal, well, once you know what the effective rate is, comma, and 12. And that's going to take me back to simple interest rate. So 15.25%. So either way. Question 14, suppose you borrow 10,000 at a rate of 11% and must repay it in 5 equal installments at the end of each month. How much interest would you have to pay in the first year? We did a mortgage calculator. In the beginning of the mortgage calculator, we did the first month payment is how much you owe and how much interest will you pay. You're making yearly payments. This is very simple. So I'm going to say the interest payment is 11%. And then what we have here is how much we owe, 10,000. Wants to know how much interest you pay in the first year. Well, all you do is take, very simple, how much I owe. I owe 5,000 or 10,000. So how much interest? It's going to be this. This is what I owe times this. So I paid 1,100 in interest. Same thing we did with mortgage in class. Question 15. What is the present value of the following cash flow streams at a rate of 19.5%? How I would attack this problem is do our own timeline. We got 3. I'm going to put the cash flows to the right. We got 750. We got 2350. We got 3175. We got 4400. So what we want to know is what is the present value? A couple ways of doing it. Let's put the interest rate up here, 19.5. Make sure you make it into a percentage or it's going to be incorrect. So what I'm going to do is this is already in the present. This is times 0. So I want to know what is the future cash flows into the present. So I'm going to make this very simple. I'm going to say that's already in the present plus the net present value of all future cash flows. So we have to know the rate. And then all you do is highlight these. Oh, it's a percentage again. So your aunt has 470 invested at 5.5%. So our aunt has 470,123. I'm gonna put the interest rate right here. um, invested. That's negative, right? Because you do not have that money right now. She wants to withdraw 45,000 beginning of each year, beginning today, 45,000. So she wants 45,000. What is that? That's positive. So this is going to be present value. She wants to withdraw this every year. That's PMT. That's an annuity. It's even amount. Beginning today. She also wants to have 49,000. We'll put that right here, 49,000. What is that? He left. She wants that left over at the end. Well, that must be future value. I'm reading through it, make sure I got everything here. What is for how many years can she make 45,000 withdrawals and still have 49,000 left over? Just 470,000 saved up at a 5.5%. She wants to get 45,000 every single year. And then at the end, she wants to know how long can she do that? And she thinks she'll die by then. And she wants to give uh give to me, to you, before she dies. I was looking at what it said. So what are we trying to solve here? We're trying to solve NPER, how many years? So we got to know the rate, 5.5. We have to know the payment, that's 45,000 per year. We all know present value. This is what's saved out of her pocket, goes into an account. And then we want to know the future value, right? I'm not going to solve it, I'm not give you the answer. Make sure you do that correctly, and that'll show how many years she has to have that happen with that amount of money. Suppose a 1 year treasury bond. So you got to do this. Draw. I don't have my pen with me to write on the tablet. You got to write a 2 year bond has a 4.1% for 2 years. So what we're going to say here, a 2 year bond has 1 plus 0.0410 to the squared. It happens twice, right? And then a 1 year is 3%. And that'd be 1 plus 0.03 to the 1 power. I won't write it down, but to the 1 power. And what we want to know is how much interest would be 1 year from now for 1 year. So in other words, 1.04 happens twice would be equal to 1.03 times another interest rate. So what we're going to do here is saying 1.0410 squared is equal to 1.03 times 1 plus I. And what are you doing? You're solving for I. Divide both sides with 1.03. Make sure you don't leave that squared, and that's how you get the answer. Okay, let's go through it. Here's a question, just like our quiz. I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but this is the interest rate on our bond. One thing, just to let you know, just like the quiz we had, we ignore this. We ignore this. So what we're saying is the return is equal to, the 6.35 is equal to the real risk-free rate plus the market risk premium plus liquidity premium plus, make sure I'm not, default risk premium plus inflation premium, right? I didn't miss anything here. So what you're trying to do is solve for inflation premium. Can't get it right. That's what we're trying to solve for. So inflation premium will be equal to 6.35 minus 2.4 minus 1 minus 0.8% minus, now this is a tough part, maturity risk premium is T minus 1. How many years is it? Well, it's a 5-year bond. So you do 5 minus 1, which is 4, times 0.1%. It's 0.4%. So you subtract out 0.4, and that will give you the inflation premium. Okay, question 19. There's a bond. Let's just write this one out. Make an annual coupon interest payment. Coupon rate is 7.35%. I'll type it up as we go. The bonds have a par value, par 1,000. Current price is negative 1,200. You got to put negative. Just remember that. Years. That's going to be, hopefully you have your bond calculator. Years. What is the yield to maturity? So I have to know the coupon payment. So that's the PMT. That's going to be the coupon rate times the par. And what we want to know is equals to rate. I'm going to double check that this is annual coupon payments. We don't divide by 2, nothing like that. It's not semi-annual. That note, get used to it. One payment per year. So I'm going to say 1 times the rate. Total number of payments you 10. PMT, we just solved coupon payment 73.50. Why is it doing this? Present value. And then future value. That'll be the answer. Same kind of question. This bond is a 15-year maturity, 7.05 semi-annual coupon payments. So now I'm going to take the 7.05 times par, 1,000, divide by 2, and a par value of 1,000. The return on, this is the yield, is 8.1% interest. Semi-annual compounding, what is the bond's price? So how do you solve price? That's going to be PV. So a couple things. What is the interest rate? It's 0.0810. It's 8.1%. Divide by 2, right? You got to look at semi-annual payments, comma, total number of payments. 2 times 15 is 30. And then PMT is roughly 35. 7.05 times 1,000 divided by 2. And then the future value is 1,000. That'll be the correct answer. 2 more questions. Bonds currently sell for 1,100. That's the price, present value. They have a 5-year to maturity. An annual coupon, that's one-time compounds, of $65. Par value of 1,000. What is the current yield? Tricky question here. Not the yield to maturity. Current is equal to Oh, I forgot. I can't do the equals. You got to do it that way, and then it goes away. It's equal to the annual coupon payment divided by price. That's all it is. So what is the annual coupon payment? $65 divided by 1,100. If that was semi-annual, you got to make it to annual. Our last one, we're asking what is the yield to call? Let me do that for the last question. We'll solve this one. Well, let's type it in 15 years. So I get used to this. Type it up as you go. 8% coupon rate. Periodic. That's 2 payments per year. Par. 1,000. Yield to maturity. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. 6.5. That's yield to maturity. Okay. So we got to do first, we got to find out the price. Let's do that. Present value is equal to the interest rate. That's the interest rate. Divide by 2 semi-annual payments. Total number of payments, 15 years times 2, which is 30. PMT, what is PMT? That's our, no, I did not calculate PMT. So what I'm going to do is do it here. PMT is 8% times par divided by how many times per year? comma, and then we want to know the future value, which is the par. So that's our price. It's not the answer to the question, though, is we want to know what the yield call is. Well, the yield call is, this is plug in the numbers. How many years do you have? You have 6. And then next is, that's it, really. We can know the NPER. That's going to be 6. So if they call it early, 6 times the 2. So it's total of 12 payments we would get. So we could just do it right here. We could say the rate is equal to the total number of payments, which is 12, times the payment, which did not change. Let's do that again. It's that times 1,000 divided by 2. That's the payment. Present value, that's what we had to solve. I had to solve the price. That's what we're paying today for this. And then the future value is the call. The call is 1120. Type it in, that's it. Okay, that's it for today. Uh, any questions? You shouldn't have any questions because I pretty much solved it for you. The exam is going to be very similar. Just know how to do it. You get one sheet of paper, write anything you want, one-sided. You can use Excel, and it's multiple choice. 80% of your grade. Let me know if you have any questions, and God bless.